Welcome to the BEASTwriter family, where social media engagement is encouraged. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to continue breaking down my 32 NFL draft grades, this time kicking off in the NFC North. Now, if you've been keeping up with my draft grades on all 32 NFL teams, you will already know that I covered the NFC South, NFC West, the NFC East, and now we are wrapping up in the NFC North. Now, before we go ahead and get started, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel. Just be sure to turn on and flip on the bell notifications so you get notified when I go live or when I upload content. Also, we run Family Friday giveaways, and today's Friday, so if you don't subscribe to the channel, you will be missing out on scoring free prizes. Who doesn't like free stuff, right? So go ahead and do that because, again, the more exposure we get here in the BEASTwriter family, the more I can give back. And that's what the BEASTwriter family is all about anyway. It's about giving back and providing authentic engagement where social media engagement is encouraged here in the BEASTwriter family. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and kick it off, starting with the Chicago Bears and my draft grade for Ryan Pace as the team's GM. All right, so let's go ahead and break that down brick by brick. Let me put up the tickers here. Is it up? Yeah, it's up. All right, so the Chicago Bears went ahead and traded up 9 spots from 20 to 11, striking a deal with the New York Giants GM Dave Gettleman. That's not Dave Gettleman's MO to trade down in the first round. He did it, though, and he saw a deal that was beneficial for both him and Ryan Pace. It was a win-win for both sides of the organizations. So if you wanted to see that podcast on GM Dave Gettleman, again, I already covered the NFC East. You can watch that podcast. Just type in BEASTwriter, Giants GM Dave Gettleman, or Giants draft, whatever the case may be. Just make sure the keyword that you type in YouTube search box is BEASTwriter. All right. So again, as it pertains to this podcast, though, we're going to go ahead and talk about this specific pick. Ryan Pace thought it was worth the investment to go ahead and trade up from 20 to number 11, get the quarterback that they always wanted in quarterback Justin Fields. It was a 1-for-4 deal. So they did give up a lot of draft capital in return. They gave up a 2022 first-round pick and a 2022 fourth-round pick. And in addition, they also gave up a 2021 fifth-round pick in this year's draft, along with the number 20 overall selection, dropping back from 20 and then moving back up to 11, moving up 9 spots. All right, so with that being said, again, it's not a surprise here because if you watched my earlier podcast and my earlier live streams, I said that the Chicago Bears, Ryan Pace, would likely do this and make this move. I was even asked from Vegas just hours before the draft who the one team I thought would make the biggest splash on day one. And I said it was the Chicago Bears moving up for Justin Fields. I called it how I saw it. It turns out that it was. I also said that Mac Jones is going to slide outside the top 10, while Trey Lance would be the pick at 3. So I basically broke down all 5 quarterbacks and where they were landing before they landed there. So again, this is why you guys follow me, not trying to toot my own horn, but it is what it is. That's how I get my following. It's because people want to know the future. And I'm not God, but when you're more right than wrong, you're pretty much on the right side of trending in the right direction, I guess you'd say. So with that being said, again, that's what happened. They made a 1-for-4 deal, Ryan Pace, as in Ryan Pace, and he makes a play for a quarterback for the second time in 5 years. We all saw what happened in 2017 when he moved up 1 spot from 3 to 2 to take Mitchell Trubisky, and that was a bust in itself. And now he's circling back again, trading up for Justin Fields, who has a higher ceiling, obviously, than Mitchell Trubisky. I never liked Mitchell Trubisky. I thought he was going to be a bust, and I think a lot of people thought he was going to be the bust, and he is. So fast forward to today, he went ahead and made a play for another quarterback because he is on the hot seat, as in Ryan Pace. He knew he had to make a power play move, and what you get in Justin Fields is a tough, smart, gritty type of player with a quarterback poised to match. So what you get is a guy that's calm, cool, and collected, doesn't get rattled too often, can stand tall in the pocket, make the tough throws, throw off platform, and Fields is a prototypical dual threat quarterback for today's NFL, basically because of his ability to evade the rush, right? Anytime you can evade the rush, you're seen as a valuable asset because you can extend plays with their legs and also have the accuracy to throw on those deeper throws. Does that make sense? Throw on those deeper throws. Make accurate throws on the deeper levels, like the 3rd level. So with that being said, I do question some of his accuracy issues. I don't think he throws on the proper shoulder a lot of the times. I don't think he throws to the receiver in stride a lot of the times. even though the ball gets there and arrives at the catch point, the receivers always have to, not always, I don't want to use always, oftentimes would have to adjust to the ball in order to make that tough catch in traffic. So again, that's something that Justin Fields needs to work on. However, I like Justin Fields, and especially at number 11, I think this was a play that GM Ryan Pace had to move. And while some people said he gave up the farm, I do not like the fact that he gave up multiple first rounders, but hey, that was the asking price, and that was the supply and demand based on getting Justin Fields at number 11. So again, I like the move that Ryan Pace made. He didn't sit back and wait at 20 because logically he would be taking the offensive tackle at that spot. And whether that be Christian Darrisaw or someone else, Samuel Cosme, who knows who was higher on the board, but they were going to take an offensive tackle. And they said, you know what, let's just go ahead and get the quarterback. I know we're going to give up next year's first, but you know what, to get a guy like Justin Fields, I'm not going to be here much longer. I'm going to tie and marry myself and marry my fate to Justin Fields because the GM and quarterback's fate are tied together. So again, I like the fact that Ryan Pace made a play for Justin Fields. I do think he hit the panic button a little too high and a little too early. I think he could have waited a little bit and then took Justin Fields. But then again, at the same time, he was probably wondering whether or not the New England Patriots, who are sitting there at 15, we're going to make a play for him. So they said, you know what, let's just not take any chances and let's just get the quarterback that we want. All right, so I get that they needed a quarterback and they get that pick and their need was there. So with that being said, if I was to put a grade on Justin Fields trading up 9 spots for their quarterback of the future, I would have to give them a solid B. I do like that pick. All right, now moving on. In the second round, this was another need-based pick. In the second round, they got offensive tackle Teven Jenkins at number 39. Now, I've been hearing that there's some football character issues when it comes to his game. But with that being said, the pick can't be denied, right? So the Chicago Bears held the number 52 overall pick. They move up to number 39 with the Carolina Panthers, who kept on trading back. You can catch that podcast that and the Panthers because I already covered the NFC South. But as it pertains to this podcast, Teven Jenkins was their targeted man all along, and it was a two for 3 deal. So again, in order to trade up, they have to give up more draft capital in return, right? So in doing so, they do pick up a 2021 5th-round pick, number 151, but they also, in moving up 13 spots, yielded a 2nd-round pick, number 52, a 3rd-round pick, number 83, and a 6th-round pick, number 204. That's a lot of draft capital, which is why the Carolina Panthers, I gave them a solid B. If you remember, with those picks, they got arguably the steal of the entire 2021 NFL draft in the 3rd round in tight end Tommy Tremble at 83. So thank you, Bears. Again, in the 6th round, got another steal in the 6th round in Shi Smith out of South Carolina, wide receiver at number 204. Thank you, Bears. So although the Bears would have been better served, in my opinion, to held on to those picks, at the time, in real time, they thought we need an offensive tackle. Let's get the last one on our board that's in the tier 1 before these offensive tackles become diminishing returns at the pick at 52. Let's just get Teven Jenkins and not play around. So that's a lot of draft capital to give up for a guy like Teven Jenkins. But the need for an offensive tackle was there. And although I like the need pick, they also need a wide receiver. And I know they just released Charles Leno Jr., so the play was offensive tackle all along. That's not a surprise here. But again, Terrace Marshall Jr. was the number 25 ranked player on my big board. They obviously need a wide receiver because Allen Robinson's playing on the franchise tag, so there's no guarantee that he's going to return after this year. And Darnell Mooney is no better than a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 at best. And I know that, they have Anthony Miller there, but he's a wide receiver 3 at best. That's his ceiling. All right. No offense to Anthony Miller. I like him, but I don't like him that much. All right. So with that being said, you can get a guy like Terrace Marshall, go BPA instead of reaching for need, diminishing the value pick, and add an insurance policy for Allen Robinson. However, they didn't go that route. They need to solidify the offensive line because, again, if Justin Fields is shiny new quarterback, you're going to need blindside protectors up front. And that's what Teven Jenkins brings to the table. So again, I like the pick, but I like Terrace Marshall a little bit better. I thought he was a better value at number 39. So with that being said, if I was to put a letter grade on Teven Jenkins, moving up just 13 spots from 52 to 39, while grabbing Teven Jenkins instead of Terrace Marshall, I'm going to have to give him a solid B. All right. Now let's go ahead and move on to the remaining draft picks. But before we go ahead and do that, here's some food for thought. The third round pick, number 83, I just talked about that. They didn't have that pick because they traded it for Teven Jenkins. And the Carolina Panthers got and used that pick on tight end Tommy Tremble, the H-back. So again, if I was to put a letter grade on this, I'm going to give it a B because at the end of the day, I do like the pick of Teven Jenkins, all right? Fourth round pick, all right? They didn't have a fourth round pick. That's right. The Chicago Bears did not have a fourth round pick in this year's draft class, not because of the Carolina Panthers and all the draft capital they gave up for Justin Fields in the first, but because they made a trade in last year's draft with the Minnesota Vikings. So they traded in the fifth round to go ahead and get an outside linebacker by the name of Tevis Gipson. And when they got Tevis Gipson, he made the 53-man roster. But in doing so and gaining that pick, they had to give up a future 2021 fourth round pick. So that's why they didn't have a fourth round pick. So if I was to put a letter grade on this, I'm going to have to give them a solid B because, hey, that fifth round pick made the 53-man roster. So it must have been a pretty good pick and pretty good player. And I like Tevis Gipson a lot. All right. Now let's take about the remaining draft picks, right? They used the shotgun approach because they didn't have a pick until the fifth round because of all the draft capital they gave up for Justin Fields and Teven Jenkins. They didn't have a second. Oh, sorry, they had a second, but they gave up their second to move up in the second, 13 spots. Say that three times fast. And then they didn't have a third. They didn't have a fourth. They didn't pick again until the fifth round. And that's where the draft picks come into play here. They got offensive tackle Larry Borum in the fifth round, number 151. Running back Khalil Herbert in the sixth round, number 217. Wide receiver Daz Newsome in the sixth round, number 221. Cornerback Thomas Graham Jr. in the sixth round, number 228. And defensive tackle, I don't want to butcher his name, but I think it's Kahiris Tonga in the seventh round, number 250. So if I was to put a final grade on the Chicago Bears draft class under the guidance of GM Ryan Pace, I'm going to have to give them a solid B, and here's why. I do like the plays that were made when they traded up in the first two rounds for need-based picks. They did it with Justin Fields. They did it with Teven Jenkins. They did give up a lot of draft capital in order to do so, but hey, they got the players that they targeted on their board. They had a mission going into that draft, and they knew, as in Ryan Pace, knew that he was on the hot seat. He knew that his time's up. He only has like 2 years left on his, basically in Chicago, because the time is running out on the team succeeding. Since he became the team's GM, it's been not so much. He hasn't drafted very well, hasn't done very well in free agency, in my opinion. So with that being said, I think he knew, hey, we need Justin Fields now and today, because if we don't get him, I'm going to be out of a job because we don't have a quarterback, right? And if this quarterback is going to have any future success, we need a offensive tackle. So let's go ahead and get that one. Okay, so I get it. I like the picks that were made. Again, they had a mission statement in mind, a vision in mind, and that was to target those two players, all right? So without further ado, I'm going to have to give them a solid B grade for the draft because of the pre-draft trades that were made. Going back to last year, they went ahead and get Tevis Gipson in the fifth round, which ultimately ended up making the 53-man roster. So again, I like the picks that were made. Like I said, keep saying that. So solid B. All right. Well, that's it for this podcast. If you like my insights and analysis, please be sure to hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. So BEASTwriter family, what are your thoughts? I love engaging with you on this platform. Please leave your comments. And again, welcome to the BEASTwriter family. I'm going to be sticking in the NFC North, wrapping up my Minnesota Vikings, go school, Minnesota Vikings draft grades later on tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be hopping on another live stream at about, let's see what time it is. I would say I'd be hopping on another live stream probably around 12 p.m. Thank you for tuning in. Take care for now. BEASTwriter.